Jai Om Vishnu Pad Srila Bhakti Pavan Janardan Maharaj Ki Jai.
Bandeyam Sri Guru Sri Yatha Paragamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavam Scha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Saganaraganatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sabadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Paran Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitam Scha. Om Jnana Timarandasya Jnanajana Shalakaya Chakshuram Milidam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Gurva Bhistam Supurakam Gurganara Sisha Sambhushitam Chintya Chintya Samasta Veda Nipunam Shri Rupa Bhatanugam Govindabhidam Ujwalam Varatanam Bhaktyan Vidam Sundaram Bande Vishwaguruncha Divyat Bhagavat Prem Noe Bija Pradam Devam Divya Devam Divya Tanum Suchandavanam Balarka Chelan Shidam Sandrananda Puram Sadeka Varanam Vairagya Vidyam Buddhim Sri Siddhanta Nidhim Subhakti Lasitam Saraswatanam Baram Banditam Shubharam Mareka Sharanam Nyashishvara Shridaram Vanshakopataru Yasya Kripa Sindhu Bhyevacha Patitanaham Pavanibhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Namo Mahabaranyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gauratavishe Namah. So reading from Sri Chaitanya Bhagawat by Srila Vrindaban Das Thakur with translation by Sarvabhavana Das, and this is Antya-khanda, Chapter 7, Pastimes with Sri Gadadhar Pandit. Good morning. All glories to the Supreme Lord Sri Gaurachandra, the Lord of Vaikuntha. All glory to Sri Nityananda, the embodiment of devotional service. All glory to Sri Gaurasundar, the beloved life of Sri Advaitacharya and Srila Srinivas Thakur. He is the life and soul of Srila Gadadhar Pandit and Sri Jagadananda. He is also the life and soul of Sri Paramananda Puri, the most precious treasure of Srila Swarup Damodar, the divine benefactor of Sri Vakreshwara Pandit and the enchanter of Sri Pundarik Vidyanidhi. He is the dear master of Sri Govinda. O Lord, kindly shower your merciful glance upon the conditioned souls. Sri Nityananda roamed about in Navadip with his associates performing continuous kirtan, and thus he was always submerged in the ocean of bliss and prema bhakti. The Sankirtan's group only devotional engagement was dancing and singing for the pleasure of Krishna. As in Gokula, Balaram went with his friends from house to house, bringing joy to all the residents. Similarly, Nityananda manifested the transcendental happiness of Gokula in Navadip. One day, the Supreme Lord, Nityananda Prabhu, intensely desired to meet Sri Gaurachandra. Thus he begged leave from Sachi Mata and proceeded toward Sri Nilachala Puri. By the divine arrangement of Sri Chaitanya, Nityananda's associates were constantly relishing the holy name, qualities, and pastimes of Sri Chaitanya, and thus always experienced the greatest ecstasy. They exhibited spiritual symptoms like roaring, shouting, dancing, weeping, etc., always singing the glories of the Lord the entire way from Navadip. They arrived near Nilachala Puri after a few days. In Kamalapur, Nityananda, upon seeing the palace, entered into an ecstatic trance, shedding profuse tears of prema and constantly, loudly calling out, Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Shri Krishna Chaitanya. The Lord sojourned in a flower garden for a few days. We can know the mind of Nityananda. Who can know the mind of Nityananda other than the Supreme Lord, Sri Krishna Chaitanya. Sri Chaitanya, upon hearing about the arrival of Nityananda, immediately left alone for Ekachakra and found him in the deep bliss of meditation. Gaurachandra began to recite beautiful verses in glorification of Sri Nityananda as he continuously circumambulated Nityananda, who was deeply steeped in meditation. Whoever hears the verses that emanated from the transcendental mouth of Gaurachandra will surely develop love and attachment for Nityananda. Let Sri Nityananda accept the head of a Muslim woman in marriage or enter a drinking den. His lotus feet remain worthy of the worship of Lord Brahma. Sri Chaitanya continuously chanted this verse and in a state of sheer ecstasy went around Sri Nityananda. Nityananda, coming out of his trance, instantly recognized the voice of Sri Chaitanya and with utmost respect he chanted aloud, Hari Bol. Upon seeing the face of Gaurachandra, Hari Bol, and upon seeing the face of Gaurachandra, was instantly swept away on a wave of ecstasy that is impossible to describe. Roaring like a lion, Nityananda constantly uttered, Haribo, 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 and fell to the ground like a stick paralyzed by intense joy. Both of the lords were in divine bliss, circumambulating each other, offering dandavats to each other, sometimes embracing each other, shedding cascading tears of love and jubilation, sometimes rolling on the ground, roaring like lions. Their exchanges of love and affection were truly wonderful, very much like the exchanges between Rama and Lakshman. Each took turns to recite verses glorifying the other whilst offered respects with folded hands, with folded palms. All the ecstatic symptoms, the transformations of pure bhakti, such as tears, shivering, horripilation, laughter, swooning, pallor, etc., were manifest upon their divine persons. These wonderful pastimes are all the arrangements of Sri Chaitanya. Only the fully surrendered servitors were fortunate to feast their eyes upon this most rare display of the ecstatic ecstasy in Prema Bhakti. After a while, Chaitanya began to eulogize Nityananda with folded palms. O Nityananda, the holy name has manifested in your form. You are the shelter of all Vaishnavas and the supreme controller, Sri Ananta. All the jewelries that embellish your divine limbs and form are the very incarnations of Bhakti Yoga. For your own pleasure, you have decorated your body with gold, silver, pearls, diamond, and Rudraksha, which represent each of the 9 limbs of Bhakti. Members of the lower caste, outcasts, reprobates, and all the other wretched souls receive liberation by your mercy alone. With the treasure of bhakti that is eagerly sought by the demigods, yogis, sages, and elevated mystics, you have rewarded the mercantile traders and others, the Vaishyas and others. The Vedas declare that Sri Krishna, the Supreme Godhead, is absolutely independent, yet you have the capacity to sell even Krishna. Who can fully fathom your unlimited potencies? For you are the divine embodiment, the incarnation of Krishna Rasa. You are oblivious to the phenomenal world, and no other words emanate from your transcendental mouth except descriptions of the wonderful qualities of Sri Krishna. Sri Krishna always resides in your heart, and your body is his pleasure abode. Therefore, whoever loves and respects you will certainly never be pushed away by Sri Krishna. Thereafter, Nityananda began to speak with great humility. My Lord, you being the Supreme Lord are glorifying me out of your love and affection, just like a guardian for his ward and devotee. Thus you are Bhakta Vatsala, the lover of your devotee. You are free to act in any way you deem fit, whether you choose to circumambulate, offer obeisances, beat and reprimand, or protect. Actually, who knows your mind? What remains unseen to your mystic vision? You are the supreme controller of the mind and life air of everyone. You are the supreme master. I simply execute your desires. First, you made me accept the life of an ascetic mendicant, and then you made me give it up. You instigated me to carry the cowherd's cane, lasso, rod, flute, and horn. Thereby I have given up the renounced order. You have instructed your most favored devotees to take up a life of austerity and bhakti yoga. Yet by weaning me away from the renounced order that befits a sage, you have made me look ludicrous in the eyes of common man. I am simply your puppet, dancing to your tune. You are the supreme judge, holding the balance. Punishment and grace are in your hands. Sri Chaitanya replied, the jewelry that decorates your body is indeed representative of the 9 limbs of pure devotion: hearing, chanting, remembering, praying, worship, offering obeisances, becoming a servant, becoming a friend, and surrendering fully. In truth, the 9-fold path of pure bhakti eternally embellishes you. You, the serpent, which is the eternal embodiment of... Yet the serpent, which is the eternal embodiment of Lord Shiva, is not properly understood by all. According to their transcendental relationship, Ananta Sage is most dear to Lord Shiva. So Sri Ananta takes the form of a serpent and remains around the neck of Shiva. Without this knowledge, people criticize the character of Shiva and as a result must suffer dire consequences. Other than Bhakti Ras, I do not see anything else in your personality. You're always steeped in the mood of Vrindaban, relishing with your body, mind, and words the nectar tasted by Nanda Maharaj with the cowherd boys. Those fortunate souls who can see this with their inner vision will certainly see the beatific face of Sri Krishna. The cane, flute, bullhorn, flower garland, gunja necklace, perfumed oil, etc. have always been your embellishments. All your young associates remind me of Sridam, Sudam, and the other cowherd boys of Vrindaban as we played together. In you I see the spiritual mellows of Vrindaban, the same sights and colors, the same divine potency of Braja is fully manifest in you in the form of Nanda Goshti Bhakti, the ecstatic love, great brilliance, all power, and devotion felt by the associates of Nanda Maharaj. Therefore, in truth, anyone who loves and respects you and your associates also loves me. In this manner, lost in their individual transcendental emotions, Mukunda, who is Chaitanya, and Ananta, who is Nityananda, discussed at length topics that had no end and were too esoteric for the comprehension of anyone. Gradually, after becoming aware of their external surroundings, their lordships went to a solitary place in the garden guarded by trees. The topics they discussed are not to be found even in the Vedas. Whenever Mahaprabhu and Nityananda met, they were mostly left to themselves. The ecstatic pastimes, they who are both the embodiments of divine bliss, performed are unknown to anyone, for by the arrangement of Sri Chaitanya, no one comes near them at these moments. Nityananda, knowing the mind of Sri Chaitanya, never has anyone accompany him when he meets the Lord in such solitude. Just as Sri Chaitanya never reveals his real identity to the world, similarly, Sri Nityananda also keeps his identity concealed. The heart and mind of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are unfathomable. This truth is unanimously reiterated in the Vedas by Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma, and even by Sri Lakshmi Devi, what to speak of others. All of them agree that they do not know or understand the inner thoughts of the Supreme Lord, yet this does not hinder their loving glorification. However, the Supreme Lord Sri Chaitanya, steeped in his spiritual motions, repeats the secrets of his mind to many, not just to one person. Those who have thus heard from the Lord joyfully think in the following manner: He does not love anyone more than he loves me, for he reveals only to me the most esoteric and secret topics. He exhorts me to ecstatically serve Krishna, giving up the path of dry renunciation like a sage who lives frugally. He also reveals to me the reason why he also rejected the life of renunciation and took up the cowherder's cane, flute, peacock feather, guja necklace, and short lasso. Another person realizes thus: of all the different grades of devotional mood, of surrender, the activities and services of the cowherd boys and damsels of Vrindaban are the topmost. Such devotion, which is eagerly sought after by even Shiva and Brahma, is a result of great austerities and bhajan. Only those great fortunate souls who are recipients of the Lord's highest mercy are rewarded with the devotional mood of Braja Gokula. Even the highly elevated devotee, Sri Uddhava, aspires for this mood of devotion, as we learn from the Srimad Bhagavatam, wherein Uddhava prays, I repeatedly offer my respects to the dust from the feet of the gopis of Nanda Maharaj's cowherd village. When these gopis loudly chant the glories of Sri Krishna, the vibration purifies the three worlds. When a Vaishnava devotee develops such a devotional attitude, then he is then fully accepted by Sri Gaurachandra as one of his own. By the Lord's arrangement, others are tested rigidly. Certainly Gaurasundar enacts his pastimes in wonderful ways. All the devotees who accompanied their lordships were constantly floating upon the cloud of divine ecstasy. Sometimes they even witnessed affectionate quarrels between Sri Nityananda Prabhu and Sri Gaurachandra. The unfortunate person who takes sides in these verbal fights and criticizes either of their lordships places himself in a precarious condition. All living entities, especially the devotees, are the non-different parts and parcels of the Lord, just like his different limbs, fingers, and feet. Thus, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Lord Krishna declares, a person with average intelligence does not think the head and other parts of the body to be separate. Similarly, my devotee does not differentiate Vishnu, the all-pervading personality of Godhead, from anything or any living entity. Unanimously, all the Vaishnavas declare that Sri Krishna Chaitanya is the Lord of everyone and everything. By the Vaishnavas, he is glorified as the supreme controller, maintainer, creator, and inscrutable one. When he descends to earth in every incarnation, his divine compassion rewards the living entities with bhakti. Although he rewards the worthy with transcendental knowledge and spiritual potency, and never spares those who are offensive and evil. For Gaurasundar, two personalities hold unique positions: Sri Nityananda Prabhu and Srila Advaitacharya, and both act in an uncommon and unpredictable manner. Even millions of times, Sri Gaurachandra will not comment. These are the mysterious ways of Gaurachandra when dealing with his beloved brother, Sri Nityananda Sri Nityananda Avadut. These are the mysterious ways of Gaurachandra when dealing with his beloved brother, Sri Nityananda Avadut. Sri Gaurachandra finally returned to his home, bidding farewell to Sri Nityananda Prabhu, who, feeling great jubilation, then proceeded to the temple to have darshan of Sri Jagannath. Those who hear the narration of Gaurasundar's meeting with Nityananda are liberated from all material attachments. As soon as Nityananda beheld the beautiful form of Jagannath, he fell to the ground and began to roll in the dust in ecstasy. When he was falling like a stick, hundreds rushed to him, trying to prevent him from dashing to the stony floor, but they could not hold him. Beholding the beauty of Jagannath, Baladeva and Subhadra Devi, Nityananda wept tears in spiritual bliss. The temple priest immediately offered him the prasadi flower garlands from all the deities. They were so impressed with his divine presence that they repeatedly offered him many flower garlands. All the devotees of Jagannath who were present there were awed by his presence, and they also began to experience spiritual bliss by seeing Nityananda's state of ecstasy. Those of them who did not know Nityananda, upon inquiry, were informed that he was the brother of Krishna Chaitanya. Nityananda, the most compassionate one, went around embracing the servitors of Sri Jagannath and drenching their bodies with tears of ecstasy. Thereafter, Sri Nityananda proceeded to meet Sri Gadadhar Pandit at his home. The wonderful affection shared between Nityananda and Gadadhar Pandit can be described only by the Supreme Lord himself. The home of Sri Gadadhar was blessed by the presence of the deity of Gopinath, which is so charming a form that it appears as though Braja Kumar, Sri Krishna. The home of Gadadhar was blessed by the presence of the deity of Gopinath, which is so charming a form that it appears as though Braja Kumar, Sri Krishna himself, is standing there. Sri Chaitanya had personally embraced this deity form. If even an atheist or agnostic was to actually see the deity, he would surely forget his mistaken views. Nityananda, seeing the exquisite form and posture of Gopinath, spouted incessant tears of ecstasy from his eyes. When Srila Gadadhar learned about the Lord's arrival, he immediately stood up from his readings of the Srimad Bhagavatam and hurried to meet the Lord. They rushed in and embraced firmly as tears flowed incessantly. They then offered obeisances to each other as they profusely eulogized each other. They felt that their eyes were now purified upon seeing each other, and their lives had now found their real meaning and purpose. They lost touch with their own bodies and external surroundings as they floated on the ocean of spiritual happiness. The devotees who were present to witness this wonderful event were greatly moved by spiritual sentiments and experienced divine bliss. No one before had ever witnessed such expressions of love and affection. Nityananda and Gadadhar were so close that neither could tolerate anyone speaking ill about the other. In fact, Sri Gadadhar had taken a vow not to see the face of anyone who criticized Nityananda and to reject the association of anyone who disliked Nityananda. Once they calmed themselves, they sat down and performed Sankirtan. Srila Gadadhar Pandit begged to Sri Nityananda to accept noon prasadam. Unknown to Srila Gadadhar, the Lord had brought with him from Bengal a large amount of rice paddy for offering to Gopinath. The rice was of a very superior quality. He had also brought colorful and exquisite cloth material. He brought these two items and gave them to Srila Gadadhar, saying, "This rice is for offering to Sri Gopinath." When Gadadhar saw the quality of the rice, he said, "I have never set eyes on such a fine quality of rice. My Lord, did you bring this rice so caringly all the way from Vaikuntha for Gopinath? Sri Lakshmi Devi alone is eligible to cook this rice, which is to be offered first to Sri Krishna and then to his devotees for them to honor his prasadam." Thus praising the high quality of the rice, Sri Gadadhar took it along with the beautiful cloth for presentation to Sri Gopinath. He draped the cloth around the deity and feasted his eyes upon the combined beauty of the cloth and Gopinath. Feeling great ecstasy, Sri Gadadhar went about arranging for the noon offering of Gopinath. He collected varieties of spinach growing wild in the garden and picked the tender leaves from a tamarind sapling, from which he made a paste by adding salt to prepare chutney. A pious and fortunate Sri Gadadhar cooked rice and other simple and delicious preparations. He arranged the offering plate and brought it before Gopinath. Just as at that instant, Gaurachandra appeared with a beaming face, chanting the Maha Mantra. Gaurachandra, he softly called out Gadadhar's name, who was then overwhelmed with spiritual emotion and began to offer prayers to the Lord with great respect. Smiling benignly, Gaurachandra said, "My dear Gadadhar, am I not invited to the feast? I am not a stranger to you or Nityananda. If you refuse me, then I will take the prasadam." Smiling benignly, Gaurachandra said, "My dear Gadadhar, am I not invited to the feast? I am not a stranger to you or Nityananda. If you refuse me, then I will take the prasadam by force. I certainly will not pass up this rare opportunity to take prasadam, which has been brought by Nityananda, cooked by you and offered to Gopinath." Both Nityananda and Gadadhar were ecstatic. Gadadhar brought a plate of prasadam and placed it before Gaurachandra, and the aroma from the rice spread over the temple premises and garden. Gaurachandra repeatedly praised the rice, instructed Gadadhar to divide the rice into 3 equal portions, as he desired to honor prasadam with his Nityananda and Gadadhar. When they also sat down, Gaurasundar began to glorify the cooking, saying, "The aroma from this rice is sure to reward anyone with bhakti. What an expert cook you are. I have never had such a delectable spinach preparation. You are the best of cooks and have made a unique item with tamarind leaves, which requires great skill. Now I am sure that you are also cooking in Vaikuntha. Now that this secret is out, is there any need for you to hide this truth any longer?" The jocular mood prevailed all the while as the Prabhus took prasadam. They were the most intimate group who were bound to each other by an unbreakable bond of love. Each knew the intensity of the other's love, and they relished prema ras along with the prasadam of Gopinath. The matters spoken by Gaurachandra in this company were never mentioned before anyone else. After they had finished prasadam and left, all the devotees who were waiting anxiously joyfully pounced on the divine remnants of the prasadam. Anyone who hears or reads this pastime of taking prasadam will undoubtedly develop Krishna Bhakti and attain the lotus feet of the Lord. Anyone fortunate enough to be blessed by the merciful glance of Sri Gadadhar can actually know the real divine identity of Sri Nityananda. Similarly, one who is dedicated to Nityananda knows Sri Gadadhar in truth. Thus Nityananda spent his days in Nilachala with Gaurachandra in the greatest jubilation. Gaurasundar, Nityananda, and Gadadhar were always together. They went for darshan of Jagannath together, performed Sankirtan together, and so on, relishing the ecstasy of prema in each other's divine association. Sri Krishna, Chaitanya, and Sri Nityananda Prabhu are my life and soul. I, Vrindaban Das, offer this song at their lotus feet. Okay. Now we'll sing Hari Haraya. Hariharaya Nama Krishna Jadavaya Nama
Hariharaya Nama Krishna Yadavaya Nama
Janavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Nama
Jadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Nama
Gopal Govinda Ram Shivarusudan Giridhari Gopinatha Marana Mohan
Giridhari Gopinatha Marana Mohan
Sri Chaitanya Nityananda Sri Advaita Chandra Gadadhar Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jai Rupa Sanatan Bhakta Raguna Shri Guru Jai Rupa Sanatan Bhakta Raguna Shri Jiva Gopala Bhakta Dasa Raguna Hey Jai Gosai Kori Charana Bandhan Jao Hoite Vignana Shamishta Puran Hey Jai Gosai Jar Mui Janardan Dasamar Padarenu Mora Panchagram Taner Charana Sevi Bhakta Sanima Janame More Abhilam Hey Jai Gosai Jabe Bhaje Kolabas Radha Krishna Nitya Lila Kori Labraka Anande Bolo Hari Bhaja Vrindaban Shri Guru Vaishnava Pare Manjayama Shri Guru Vaishnava Pad Padma Korea Harinam Sankirtana Gohe Naratamada Shri Guru Vaishnava Pad Padma Korea Harinam Sankirtana Gohe Naratamada Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare
Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare
Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Rama
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Nitai Gora Hari Bo Hari Bo Hari Bo Hari Bo Nitai Gora Hari Bo Hari Bo Hari Bo Hari Bo Jai Saparikara Shishi Guru Guranga Gandharvika Giridhari Ju Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Nirmacharya Maharaj Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravajakacharya Ashtatara Satashi Shrimad Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Gosai Maharaj Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravajakacharya Ashtatara Satashi Shrimad Srila Bhakti Rakak Srila Dev Gosai Maharaj Ki Jai Jai Bhagavan Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Gosai Thakur Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnupad Vaishnava Sarvabhauma Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai Rubanuga Guru Bharga Ki Jai Namachari Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Shri Rupa Sanatana Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jiva Gopal Bhatta Das Raghunath Shad Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai Prem Se Gaur Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Shri Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Srila Vrindaban Das Thakur Ki Jai Sri Chaitanya Bhagawat Ki Jai Srila Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita Ki Jai Narottam Srinivas Shamananda Prabhu Ki Jai Vishwavaranya Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Sri Navadip Dham Ki Jai Sri Ram Mayapur Ki Jai Saparshada Sri Nityananda Prabhu Ki Jai Saparshada Sriman Mahaprabhu Ki Jai Sri Koladvip Ki Jai Sri Chaitanya Chaitanya Saraswat Mat ki jai, Soquel Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Seva Ashram ki jai, Ganga Devi ki jai, Tulasi Maharani ki jai, Bhakti Devi ki jai, Shri Vrindaban Dham ki jai, Shri Radha Krishna Go Gopi Govardhan, Sham Kuna Radha Kunda Kalindi Yamuna Jo ki jai, Shri Purushottama Dham ki jai, Baladev Subhadra Jagannath Jo ki jai, Bhakti Vigna Vinashaya Shri Nrsingadev ki jai, Bhakta Prabhara Shri Prahlad Maharaj ki jai, Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai, all the assembled devotees ki jai. Gaur Brahmanande Hari Hari Bo.